you for listening to NonTheology, the show here to fill the podcast-shaped hole in your heart. I am one of the two hosts, Gabe, and I'm joined by the other of the two hosts, Eric.
Is that like our slogan now? Here to fill the podcast-shaped hole in your heart?
Yeah, I like that better than theology, non-theology, and everything in between. Also, I can't promise any more time intervals that we'll be producing the episodes in.
Right. No, it's fine. I don't have an issue with it. It's just something that I keep seeing it pop up. My other comment is that I liked it better when you said hello and congratulations for listening to NonTheology. I thought that was funnier.
Well, it's kind of implicit now. Our esteemed listeners now know they don't need to be given constant congratulatory salutations.
Like God does.
Right. Yeah, our listeners have cranked their humility up to 11.
Yes. Well, anyway, so Gabe, you were at this thing with some people.
Yeah, Eric, how did you enjoy the Atheist Alliance of America National Convention?
Fuck off, Gabe.
Oh, what's that all about?
I didn't go. I couldn't go.
Big time bummer.
If you're a fan of the show and you listened to the last episode where we talked about the fact that this thing was coming up, I said I had just gotten some work done on my car and that I was going to drive up there to Boston. Well, it turns out that some work done on my car turned into like lots and lots more work needing to be done on my car. And when that weekend finally rolled around, I didn't even have the car. I thought that I was going to be able to get out there with the car. That was my plan. And then by the time I realized that that wasn't going to work, it was way too late to try to arrange any other sort of transportation to get out there.
Yeah, so. Sorry, man. I said I was going to fix your car, but the whole thing melted.
I said I was going to fix your car, but I ripped it apart and sold all the parts.
I know, I said all you needed to have was the blinker fluid changed, but I don't even know what happened.
Yeah, that's not a funny joke.
Oh, well, I had a total blast at the concert. It wasn't a concert.
It wasn't a concert.
I had a total blast at the convention. It was a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of really cool speakers, hang out with some cool atheist dudes and gals. And
such as? Who was there?
Some of the cool speakers I had the honor of hanging out with were actually formative in me leaving my religion and coming to atheism in the first place. So people like Aaron Ra. Yeah. So people like Aaron Ra, the YouTuber, and Seth Andrews, host of the Thinking Atheist podcast, plus a bunch of other cool people.
Shelley was there, right?
Yes. Shelley Siegel, previously on the show, atheist singer-songwriter from Australia, was there at the very tail end of the concert, so her and I got to hang out. That was a lot of fun.
Once again, not a concert.
Did I say concert again?
Yes. But yeah, that's sweet. That's sweet that you got to hang out with all those people. I got to talk to Seth Andrews on the phone. Gabe was nice enough to set that up for me. Gabe was like, can you call me at like 3:30 today? And I was like, yeah, probably. So I called Gabe at like 3:30 and Seth Andrews picked up Gabe's phone. And I was like, oh, hey, man, what's going on? What's up with you? How are you? So we had a little chat. So that was kind of
Eric
cool,
spent the next half an hour on the phone with Seth Andrews screaming and crying about how much he loved the show.
I didn't do that. Well, I told him that I was a fan of his, but that's just being polite. That's not screaming and crying. Anyway.
Some of the other people that I got to hang out with were people who are sort of behind-the-scenes people who make a lot of stuff in the secular community happen. So, for example, one of the people that I've mentioned on the podcast before, who's kind of a little hero of mine, is Ellery Shemp. Eric, do you remember me mentioning that name?
Yeah, I don't remember who that person is, but I do remember you bringing that person up.
Yeah, so there is a famous Supreme Court case. I think it is Abington Board of Education versus Shemp, and it was one of the first things that decided that you could not have compulsory prayer in school, and that Ellery Shemp is the same Shemp. So he got to speak, and he's a really cool guy.
So yeah, that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, he's cool. I also got to hang out with Edwina Rogers, who's the executive director of the Secular Coalition of America, the people who are hanging out with Congress and making sure that the interests and needs of atheists in the secular community are being represented at the governmental level. So, big time cool stuff on her end.
Yeah, you were kicking it with some really important people. Look at you.
I was trying to kick them, and that's one of the things that got me escorted out.
Ah, damn it. I should have known that you were going to get kicked out.
Yeah, I was super pumped to be hanging out with those people. That was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I got to meet them.
Yeah, and I'm jealous that I didn't get to. Maybe next time there's a giant atheist convention in Boston, I'll be able to go to it.
Well, there's not going to be one in Boston anytime soon, but there is going to be one in Salt Lake City sometime in 2014.
God, that's so far away. It's so far. I don't think I want to go to Salt Lake City for one of those.
You can hang out with the Mormons.
I can't think of anything I'd rather not do than hang out with the Mormons.
You can hang out with Chuck from Irreligiosity.
That's true. Friend of the show, Chuck Morrison from Irreligiosity.
Yes, once again, we need to clarify friend, but not fan of the show.
Right. So go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already.
That was one of my favorite episodes, as well as one of our most downloaded episodes.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one. Definitely a good one.
Yeah.
So anything else about the atheist concert, Gabe?
Conference, Eric. You mean conference.
Right. Of course. Yeah, anything else on that?
No, that was it. That was the first one I had ever been to, and I had a lot of fun with it, so I intend to be going to some more of those sometime in the future.
Fantastic. Apart from that, you told me that we got some pretty cool listener feedback from some friends of ours who I didn't know were listening to the show because I hadn't told them about it.
Right.
Some of our friends have been listening to the show. I don't know if they want to be named or not, so we'll just call them Kevin, female Kevin, and other female Kevin.
Kevin and girl Kevin.
Right, yeah, Kevin, and then 2 girl Kevins.
Yeah.
So if you guys are listening, hi, how's it going? So Gabe, normally when we do this, if we're going to play a game of Wait What, it will be you that supplies the content, and I have to try to figure out what on earth is going on.
Yeah, I supply the wait, you supply the what.
Yeah, sure, I guess. But anyways, would you like to play a game of Wait What?
I guess we can flip the script this time.
Well, good. Something sort of came across my Facebook news feed that I didn't know. I didn't necessarily go out searching for it, but I saw it and I just thought it was the most just incredibly bizarre thing I've ever seen. So I wanted to get it on the show. So,
well, this is really cool actually, because this is this is episode number 33, and this will be the very first time that Eric has gone out and taken some initiative on his own and done something to contribute to the podcast.
Yep, fair enough. Anyways, that's not incorrect. I guess you can have 3 points, 3 possible points.
Great. I'm going to earn
1,
all of them.
If you can tell me who it is that's speaking, who is he speaking about, and what are the people who he's speaking about, what are they doing? It will be the 3rd point. So I'll have to cut out just a couple of words so as not to give it away, but the quote is, you know what they do there? They want to get people, so they got the stuff, and they'll have a ring, and you shake hands, and the ring's got a little thing on it where you cut your finger. Really, it's that kind of vicious stuff, which would be the equivalent of murder.
What?
So that's the quote. So I'll give you a hint as far as who said it.
Wait. I hope the hint's going to be something other than just a really crazy person.
Well, right, no, that much is obvious. It's more or less the exact same person who you would expect it to be, who's just a crazy old religious man who's rambling on about these things that don't make any sense.
Okay, crazy old religious man. I'm going to guess you, Eric.
No, incorrect.
All right, I'll guess Pat Robertson is...
That's correct. It's Pat Robertson.
Cool.
Okay, so now it's Pat Robertson, and he says...
Okay, and so there's one group that Pat Robertson can never stop thinking and talking and obsessing about, and that's gay people.
Correct. So now, so let me... So let me read the quote verbatim, because you've got 2 points already.
All right.
You know what they do in San Francisco? Some in the gay...
San Francisco.
Yeah, he says, you know what they do in San Francisco? Some in the gay community there, they want to get people, so they got the stuff, and they'll have a ring. You shake hands, and the ring's got a little thing where you cut your finger, Robertson said. Really, it's that kind of vicious stuff, which would be the equivalent of murder. So what is he accusing gay people of doing with a ring and cutting fingers and stuff?
Is this exchanging blood-borne pathogens?
Yes, he's accusing gay people in San Francisco of trying to infect people with HIV by wearing a ring on their finger that will cut their hand and cut the hand of the person who they're shaking hands with, thus to infect people with AIDS, more or less.
Does he explain what he thinks the motivation for this is? Like, oh man, I just totally get off on giving other people AIDS.
Well, there's another quote that goes along with it. I'll just read. You know, there's a little article. Like there's a video that's like an hour long where he's just on the 700 Club, which is his show, you know, doing his thing or whatever. But so while responding to a question from a woman who wondered if it was wrong for the church not to inform her that a man she was driving to worship services is dying of AIDS. So there's a lady who gives somebody a ride to church basically, and he has AIDS, and so they're speculating on whether or not this woman needs to know. Whether or not it was wrong for this woman not to be informed that this guy who she's giving a ride to church has AIDS, because somehow being in the car with him will, will result in her getting
Oh,
AIDS.
is that her concern?
It's.
I was thinking this is the sort of thing that, some people go to church just for community. Some people go to church to sort of meet some hot dudes, and maybe she was thinking about having a relationship with this guy, but no, he's dying of AIDS.
Yeah, they're responding to a question from a woman who wondered whether or not it was wrong for the church to not inform her that the man that she was driving to worship services was dying of AIDS.
Wait, so the concern is whether or not the church is allowed to disclose personal medical history?
Right.
That's just trivially, no, they're not allowed to do that.
Because she's driving this person to church and he has AIDS. And if she's going to be around somebody with AIDS, she damn well better know about it, I guess. Because somehow being in the passenger seat of a car automatically means that the driver of the car now has AIDS.
Right. There's been a lot of studies in the past decade or so about how AIDS can be transmitted, and one of the ways that the liberal media covers up that AIDS can be transmitted is passenger seat to driver's seat. Huge infection rate there.
Right. But anyways, Pat Robertson acknowledges the fact that he doesn't know what on earth he's talking about, because
he should have to give that statement at the beginning of all of his shows.
Well,
Warning, this man has no idea what he's talking about.
It says, Robertson admitted that he, quote, used to think it was transmitted by saliva and other things. Now they say it may be sexual contact. That's a direct quote. And then it says, there are laws now. I think the homosexual community has put these draconian laws on the books that prohibit people from discussing this particular affliction. You can tell somebody you had a heart attack. You can tell them that you've got high blood pressure, but you can't tell anybody you've got AIDS, which I don't know what he's talking about there. But
yeah, what law is there against telling people you have AIDS?
There isn't. I don't know, but apparently there's some draconian laws on the books that don't let the church tell people about your medical history.
Okay, so organizations can't disclose other people's medical history, but people are certainly allowed to.
Yeah, right, yeah, I mean, yeah, if I have AIDS, I am allowed to tell somebody else that I have AIDS. That's not against the law.
So not only he's made up this law that doesn't exist I'm very, very confident, I haven't looked into it myself, but I'm very confident there's no such law saying that you can't tell someone else that you have AIDS. So there's one level of fabrication there, but then to also call them draconian? What?
Yeah, I don't even know what draconian means.
A draconian law is named after, I think it was a Roman emperor, Dracos, who made the punishment for laws way over and above what they needed to be, so the punishment didn't fit the crime.
Oh, I see.
So get caught stealing a loaf of bread? Executed.
Right, yeah.
Shit.
Hands cut off, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so Pat Robertson said on the air that gay people in San Francisco are wearing rings that cut people's hands so that when they shake hands, they transmit AIDS to people who don't have AIDS. And I just thought that was that's something else. That's
There's another issue here, Mr. Robertson. You don't just get AIDS by cutting your hand. The person who is wearing the ring would already have to have a really bloody hand to begin with. Like, you need a way to get the AIDS virus into the other person. You don't just get that by touching someone. Even if someone with AIDS touches an open wound, there's almost no chance that you're going to get HIV.
Yeah, it's like you have to pour your blood into the open wound of another person. Yeah, and we've talked about Pat Robertson before, and we obviously just dismiss him as an old, insane, kooky bastard. But it is unfortunate that there are actually people who listen to what he has to say and think, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was going on. And then those people are allowed to vote and stuff.
Yeah, there was a time when we first started doing Wait What, and we had I think Pat Robertson on 2 times in a row. And I was thinking to myself, we should make a rule that says, okay, Pat Robertson and Ken Ham are not allowed to be on Wait What. It's too easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a family member of mine sends me back to back a thing from Ken Ham and a thing from Pat Robertson saying hey Dave, you should really listen to how smart these guys are.
Check this out.
And I was like, ooh, no, there's people who listen to these things and take them seriously.
Yeah, that's I just don't understand how, if you have the ability to like think, how you could hear the things they say and think, oh yeah, that's, yeah, totally, because it's just so obvious that 99% of the words out of their mouth are just complete and utter nonsense.
Right.
And I just don't understand how people don't pick up on that,
I don't know.
or how there are people, I guess, who don't pick up on that. It's I guess it's the sort of cognitive bias that we've talked about before. Like, that you hear somebody who is saying something that you want to be true, so it doesn't matter, whether or not it makes any sense. You just hear it and it agrees with what you already want to be agreeing with, so you just file it under correct in your mind,
Yeah, well, so that's confirmation bias. There's got to be something else cognitively that's going on with these people who hears that people in San Francisco are trying to infect everyone with AIDS and thinks, oh man, I sure want to believe that. Well, honestly, I do not know what the deal is with some of the people, the really extreme right-wing people. That's a group of people that I just cannot put myself in their shoes and see how the world looks to them.
No, I would agree with you totally on that. I mean, I feel like with that, they have this sort of anti-homosexual agenda. And so if they hear about homosexuals doing something that's not good, then, that's all they need. It doesn't matter how ridiculous it is. You could tell them that like homosexuals are actually aliens sent here from another planet to destroy humanity, and they'd be like, "I knew it. I fucking knew it." So
I knew it. Those homosexuals with their advanced technology.
Yeah. Right.
Those homosexuals and their interstellar travel.
Those sons of bitches. Come here to corrupt our youth.
Corrupt our youth with faster than light speed travel.
They have infinite, technological abilities, and what they've chosen to do with that is to come here and bug us.
to cut our hands.
Anyways, so that's enough on that. I just
yeah, definitely.
I thought that was too good to pass up on. And I guess just sort of sticking with the
already pretty ranty nature of this episode.
Well, just sticking with this is something interesting that I wanted to bring up as soon as I heard about it, because I'm a big hockey fan, and the Olympics are going to be in Russia next time. The 2014 Winter Olympics are going to be in Sochi, Russia. And Russia just recently, they came out with some new laws. And those laws basically state that it's a crime to disseminate information about homosexuality or about any sort of non-traditional relationships or families or anything like that. So basically, they're more or less making it illegal to talk about homosexuality. So if you go out in the street with a sign that says, "I am gay and this is my husband," that's not allowed. Like, that's illegal now. So they're totally, taking away like First Amendment rights. And I know they don't have the Bill of Rights like we do, obviously, but like if that happened here, it would be a blatant violation of the First Amendment. And so I thought that was interesting, just because like I said, the Olympics are going to be there, and so a lot of hockey players are already speaking out against this and saying, "Well, that's not right. That's not how we see it," and blah 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 blah. And so I'm sure that when the Olympics actually happen, it's going to be a big story. So I think I just wanted to bring that up, because we definitely are going to be keeping our eye on that. I know I will be. I'm sure that there's going to be lots and lots of protesting in the nature of a protest, sort of actions and statements and things like that being made by lots of the athletes who go there. There's a hockey player. His name is Ilya Kovalchuk. He used to play hockey in the United States, and he actually left the United States to go back and play the rest of his career in Russia, even though he's still in the prime of his career and still a really, really good player. But he went back to Russia, and when the laws came out, he said, if that's what the country says to do, then that's we have to agree with it, because it's our country. And I just thought to myself, yeah, that's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're allowed to disagree with things that people say. Just because they happen to be from the same country as you doesn't mean that they're right.
That's a scary kind of nationalism to me.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, the guy at the top of the ladder said so I guess I have to agree with him.
Right, yeah.
No. There's an important part here that you should be allowed to criticize people who are running the country that you live in.
Right. I mean, typically what I would do at this point is just sort of paint all Russians with a broad brush and make a bunch of stereotypical comments about them. But I don't really know what the average Russian person is like, if they are super loyal to the government or if they have lots of strife and rebellion against it. But I'm more or less am convinced that Vladimir Putin is a crazy man. And
well, you'd have to be pretty crazy to run a country that's populated almost entirely by bears on unicycles.
Right. But anyway, so that's definitely an interesting thing that's going on right now that we'll have to keep our eye on it and just kind of see what happens. I'm really interested to kind of find out how much resistance that's met with by the international community when the Olympics kick off there.
Yeah, me too. I have to imagine that Non-Theology is going to comment on this at some point in the future, at least in part because I'm really interested in gay and minority rights, and Eric is really interested in hockey and cold places.
Sports. Yeah.
Hockey and vodka.
Right. But I mean, the Olympic Committee or whatever, I would imagine that they try to come across as an all-inclusive sort of organization. And I doubt very seriously that the Olympic Committee is going to go along with that and just be like, oh yeah, you're right, you shouldn't be allowed to talk about homosexuality.
I've heard that the Olympic Committee has been kind of unfortunately silent about this, that they're more interested in making sure the Olympics run smoothly. The Olympic Committee, to some extent, needs to take responsibility for the gay athletes that are going to be in the hosting country. And if Russia has these anti-gay laws, that's going to put a big hamper on whatever these athletes can be doing or saying.
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, it may have something to do with the fact that the Olympic community isn't commenting on it because they don't want to look bad or look incompetent in like who they chose. I mean, and we're speaking about this committee as if, is that actually what it is? Do they have like a board of governors for the Olympics that makes these decisions or whatever?
Yes, the Olympic Committee is an actual board of important people. I'm not sure how they're elected or what they do exactly.
Oh, okay, but so at least we're talking about something that exists.
I'm glad you did enough research to know what you're talking about for this episode.
Well, I mean, I just looked up what the law was when I saw that it came out, which was, that was enough. I didn't necessarily know what direction we were going to take the discussion. Thanks. But anyways, it may just be that they picked the country, and so it's their bed, and now they have to lay in it, kind of thing. Like they don't want to pick the country and then all of a sudden be like, "Well, wait a minute, you guys suck. You can't do that." So, because that would maybe make them look like a bunch of incompetent buffoons, and so maybe they're just trying to cover their own.
Right. Well, there was the same thing happened when they chose China as the host for, I think it was the 2008 Olympics. There was a lot of backlash on that decision because China is not exactly known as a beacon of liberal progressive values in the world.
Right, and they got some heat for being really bad with the environment too, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but yeah, that's an interesting story that I'm sort of interested to see what direction it goes in.
Yeah, I agree.
So the next thing that I wanted to talk about this episode was I came across something else on the internet, and it was so delightful that I just had to share it with somebody, and the first person who I thought to share it with was Gabe, because I knew that he would find it even more delightful than I did.
Boy, did I ever find it delightful. And the first person that I wanted to share it with was the two listeners of ours. So, Kevin, if you're out there listening, you're going to love this.
Right. So, it's this trailer for this movie that's coming out. It's by, what is it? Pure Flix Entertainment or something like that. Some Christian movie company. It's just... So anyway, we're gonna talk about it right now, but it's just so unintentionally funny and just mischaracterizes like me. Just
Eric, I don't think it was meant to characterize you in the first place.
Right, but you know what I mean by that. Like it mischaracterizes people who hold the same,
It mischaracterizes everything. It mischaracterizes atheism and philosophy, and I don't know if it's meant to characterize Christianity, but if it is, it's mischaracterizing what I think a lot of Christians believe and how a lot of Christians think.
Right. Essentially, there's a kid who's going to college and he's a Christian, and the college professor, who, by the way, the college professor is played by Kevin Sorbo, which I think is hilarious because growing up, there was these two shows. One of them was Hercules, and the other one was Xena Warrior Princess, starring Lucy Lawless. And have you heard of either one of them, Gabe?
I'm familiar with Xena Warrior Princess.
Okay, so the Xena Warrior Princess TV show and the Hercules TV show starring Kevin Sorbo, ran back to back. It would be like Hercules, then Xena or something like that. And they would run, and they took place like in the same universe. And every now and again, they would be on each other's show. Like every now and then, Hercules would run into Xena on Hercules and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Ah.
So, and it was just this campy, ridiculous, really stupid TV show. But me as like a 10-year-old, I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like whenever I saw Hercules or Xena on TV, I watched the shit out of it. So when I was watching this trailer, before Kevin Sorbo makes an appearance, before I knew he was in it, I already was like, well, this is just absolutely fantastic. And then I saw Kevin Sorbo, and I was just like, well, that's just the greatest thing ever. If this wasn't already the best thing ever, it is now, because Kevin Sorbo stars as the bad guy, mischaracterizing atheism villain who's, the good guy is going to eventually defeat in the name of Christ and all these things. But anyways, what we should do then is, Gabe, are you going to be able to post the trailer on the website?
I will post a link to it, yes.
Right, okay. So what I think we should do then is, if you right now, listeners, if you have the ability to pause the podcast, go to the website, click the link, watch the trailer, you should just watch the trailer now so that you know what we're talking about as we go through it. We'll also play some audio from it, I think, is what we're going to do, right, Gabe?
Yeah, we've got a couple of small clips lined up. It's just so tremendous. You really need to go and watch the full trailer.
It's really, really good. It's so funny. But anyways, let's just go with the first clip. And then, this is kind of exciting, actually. We've never done anything like this before. Like, let's play the first clip, and then we'll come back and talk about it. But anyways, so let's go ahead and play the first clip. And then Gabe and I will be back to make fun of it.
Yeah, this will be good. I'll have to find some sound effects so people know the clip is starting and ending. Like maybe a audio tape rolling up to the reel. Like,
you prayed and believed your whole life. And here you are. Explain that to me.
And a 12-year-old watches his mother dying of cancer. A God who would allow that is not worth believing in. Life is really a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury and signifying nothing.
I love that line.
What is he talking about? Sound and fury and signifying nothing. Like, what does that mean? If you haven't been able to go and actually watch the trailer, the guy who says that's TV's Hercules. That's Kevin Sorbo. He's just a terrific actor.
From what I've seen on the trailer, I'll give them that the acting seems like it's going to be decent. I don't think it's going to be poorly acted.
Yeah, just the script really is probably what's going to do them in.
Right.
But anyway, so when I mentioned that it mischaracterizes me, or what I meant by that was it mischaracterizes atheism, it begins right away. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. There's this old woman sitting in a chair with this like forlorn, just sort of confused, vacant look on her face. And there's just this creepy man sitting in the room with her, and he's like, you've prayed and believed your whole life, and here you are. Explain that to me. Like, who does that? I'm sorry, but atheists don't run around looking for old people who believe in God and try to convince them that their whole life has been a waste.
Yeah.
That they're going to die and not go to heaven. Like, why would you ever do that?
Now that I'm an atheist, I just have to harass old people, right? That's my job. Yeah. That's what atheism is, right?
Yeah, it's so he's sitting in the damn room with this old lady just like harassing her.
Tormenting her. This woman doesn't look like she's got it all together. She's just sort of staring aimlessly into space, and he's pestering her relentlessly.
Mm-hmm. Right. Anyway, so, I've kind of talked about this before. Like, I don't have any problem at all, talking to anyone who wants to talk about, like, what my views are. And like, or what their views are, and having that discussion. But at the same time, I have never seen the point in trying to convince the elderly that they're wrong about their faith. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's fine. They're old. You can just leave them alone. There's no, and not that I'm saying that I'm a crusader who's out to try to convince everyone that their religion is wrong, if they're not an elderly person. But it's inappropriate, I think, to try and do that, though, with somebody who's, old.
Well, and I think you're using the word elderly as a substitute for something else. I don't think you just mean elderly people. I think you mean people who don't have the faculties to actually evaluate and judge things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess, I kind of mean like the lady who in this clip is obviously like senile and like not all there and just... It's, that's like messing with people who are mentally handicapped or something. Like, that's like not okay. That's really, really terrible. But apparently, according to Pure Entertainment or whatever, Pure Flix Entertainment, apparently that's what we do.
I guess that's what atheists do.
Torment old people. So anyways, so moving on from that.
I'm Professor Radisson. This is Philosophy 150. I would like to bypass senseless debate altogether and jump to the conclusion, which every sophomore is already aware of: there is no God. All that I require from each of you is that you fill in the papers I've just given you with 3 little words: God is dead.
So they're sitting in class, and it's the first day of class, and the professor says, I'd like to bypass senseless debate altogether and just tell you what to think.
Right.
Let me tell you what my opinion is, and that will automatically then become your opinion.
Right, because professors in philosophy classes are not there to help the students think critically or evaluate arguments or evaluate ideas and consider how premises lead to conclusions, things like that. No. It's all about just feeding you whatever is the conclusion the professor happens to have come to.
Yeah, it's that little spiel by TV's Hercules Kevin Sorbo is just like the most ridiculous portrayal of a college class. I couldn't have made up a more ridiculous portrayal of like what philosophy class would be like. You know what I mean? Right. It's just.
And Eric, you took a philosophy class at OSU, right?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, like
it was that mathematical logic thing, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I took one of them. It was called philosophy, but it was actually more like a statistics kind of thing. And that actually did take a philosophy in the more traditional sense of the word. Like we read Plato and Aristotle and things like that, and talked about those, those kind of things.
And the professor told you what to believe.
Yes. Actually, we if we weren't atheists, we didn't pass, so that's why. Yeah. But yes, he makes them write on a piece of paper that God is dead. Like what?
Yeah, that's going to be their graded assignment. Just write God is dead, and that'll be it.
I mean, it's
that's all I need from you.
And the other thing that I have, by the way, the movie is not even out yet. The movie's going to be called God's Not Dead. And I don't understand the contention that someone would be making if they were to say God is dead. Because the God of Christianity that I am aware of couldn't possibly die.
Right.
Like he couldn't possibly start off doing great and then he doesn't change. You know what I mean? Like it's not like God's like, oh, just gonna kind of do my thing and make sure that everything's great for all humanity. And then just like one day he was just like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm done. Forget it. I'm out.
Right. So a little bit of background on the phrase God is dead. So this originally came from Nietzsche, who...
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So there's 2 distinctions to be made here. There's the God of the pews and the God of the philosophers. The God of the philosophers is this... if you'll allow me to sort of insert my own opinion about this, the God of the philosophers is sort of this weird, non-anthropomorphic, non-personal thing that's out there that is sort of the ground of all being, but trying to reconcile how that God thinks or how that God interacts with the world, if at all, is really weird and presents a lot of problems to philosophers. And that's not the kind of God that could ever die, right? That's exactly what you're saying. Versus the God of the pews. The God of the pews is this happy, bearded man who loves you and answers your prayers and interacts with you on a very deeply personal level, speaks directly into your mind, stuff like that. These are 2 very different things. But so this movie has sort of wrestled this quote out of this and been like, oh, these philosophy professors think that God is dead and they require you to write that on pieces of paper as graded assignments.
Right. Okay, well, I'll get back on that because I want to sort of link that into another aspect of it, but we'll wait. There's another bit later that I definitely want to talk about, so I'll get there when we get there.
Is it the phenomenal Christian rock band?
No.
God's not dead.
Yeah. No, that's not it. Anyways.
Because that's really the only song I have in my iPod that's playing on repeat all day long.
God's Not Dead by Newsboys or whatever they're called.
Right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on then, I think.
To the next clip?
Yeah.
Mr. Wheaton, is something wrong?
I can't do what you want. I'm a Christian.
If you cannot bring yourself to admit that God is dead, then you will need to defend the antithesis. Mr. Wheaton, are you ready?
We're going to put God on trial.
You just want to ensnare them in your primitive superstition.
What I want is for them to make their own choice. That's what God wants.
You have no idea how much I'm going to enjoy failing you.
Yeah, but who are you really looking to fail? Me
or God?
So apparently what happens is the philosophy professor who doesn't believe in God and wants all of his students to just mindlessly write God is dead on the papers challenges this student to a debate, which would never happen in any philosophy class.
Right, don't they have like a lesson plan that they have to get
Right.
do they really have class time that they can spend on having this little debate between like one...
To have a debate between the professor and a student over whether God is dead? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right, well, and the other thing is, it's not like, all right, we're going to break up into groups and select this group is going to cover this aspect of the debate and this group's going to cover this aspect of the debate. It's just one kid, and then everybody else in the class apparently just shows up for class during this and just like sits there and watches the thing. Like, do they, you know?
Like they're whispering amongst themselves, is this going to be in the midterm? What's going on?
Did we get any homework, or was it just the one? Or did just the one kid get homework?
Does just the one kid get homework?
Right. So they're having the debate or whatever, and the kid says that he gets angry and starts yelling at the professor. He says,
Science supports his existence. You know the truth. So why do you hate him? It's a very simple question. Why do you hate God?
He walks out of the professor's podium because they're in this debate, and he points his finger in his face and says, "Why do you hate God?"
Well, before he says that, he says, science supports his existence, and you know that. So, and then he goes on, which that's just,
Ooh, yeah, you know what? I'm really excited to see the movie because I'm really excited to hear in what ways science supports his existence. And let me emphasize his existence.
Yeah.
Science supports that not only God exists, but also God's a
guy.
dude? God's a
Right.
dude?
Yeah, he's a male. Yeah. But so that's just sort of like a dead giveaway that these people they don't necessarily know what they're talking about, I would say. But anyways, if you hadn't figured that out already, by they, I mean the people
Now,
who are
Eric,
making...
the trailer that we're watching doesn't disclose this, but what is it, do you think, that he's going to say before the clip that we get access to that is going to lead him to say that science confirms his existence?
I don't know. I think I might make a point of seeing this movie if for no other reason than just to find out what it is that they use as the scientific evidence to support the existence of the God that they happen to believe in. I'm sure that part will be very interesting, for lack of a better word.
So my guess, my prediction, my prophecy, is that he's going to bring out the Kalam cosmological argument. Which is, and I hope I'm not going over too many people's heads with this, but that's what's known as Bunkus Balunkus.
Bunkus Balunkus. We've talked about the Kalam cosmological argument on the show before, right?
I don't think we have. I kind of want to.
Yeah, in 3 sentences. Just because I don't remember exactly what it is. I know I've been exposed to it plenty of times, but in 3 sentences or less, can you explain it real quick? Just like the very...
why I need to do this. But...
Because I don't remember what it is. I want you to tell me.
All right, so Kalam cosmological argument. Everything that began to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe has a cause. After that, there's a little bit of hand-waving that suggests that the cause of the universe is personal, therefore the cause of the universe exists and is some personal being. That's the thing we call God. Done.
Yeah, okay, right. Good. Okay, thank you for the refresher. Yeah, but anyway, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if they went down that road and used that as the old
I only say that because he's using science, as his podium to say that. That's the only thing that's even a little bit remotely close to science, even though science definitely can't get you the personal part.
No.
We can have a discussion about whether science can tell you that the universe began to exist. But yeah, I mean, the general premises of the Kalam cosmological argument are not supported by science.
Right. So anyway, the other bit that I just wanted to get into briefly was something that just sort of beguiles me. I don't understand why anybody would think this way, and I don't necessarily know if there are people who think this way, or if it is just something that the people who make the movie seem to think exists. But at the beginning of the trailer, Kevin Sorbo says something along the line. That's the professor. Says something along the lines of like, any god who would allow a son or a parent to watch their daughter die at only 12 years old of cancer or something like that, a god who will allow that to happen is not worth believing in, or something like that. And then later on, they get down to the actual crux of the issue is that the professor hates God. Which, are there people who believe in God who hate God? Because I know that the sort of negative qualities that are there, or like the problem of evil in the world, or just the ridiculous things that the God of the Bible has done, don't lead to me like disliking God. They just are further evidence of the fact that God's doesn't exist. You know what I mean? And so it's like the movie does this thing that some people do where people misunderstand it, whether intentionally or not, the position of atheists who lack a belief in God, when they say, "Oh, you just dislike God," or it's still that Ray Comfort thing, you just want to rebel against God because you don't like God. Right. It's like, no, I'm sorry, sir. It's that I don't think God's real. That's the issue, Right. So there's that again. That's something that we've talked about on the show before, is this sort of idea of like, no, it's not that I have anything against the guy. It's not that he rubs me the wrong way. It's that he's not a real thing. So right. And so I just thought it was funny that we've talked about that before, and that jumped right out at me in the trailer. Just there's that again. People just mischaracterizing what it is that we actually are, what we're all about. So I just find that to be just completely absurd, and not at all surprised to see it on this like type of platform. Yeah. So that's really all I wanted to talk about for this episode.
I am really excited for this movie.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure it's not going to theaters, or else I probably would go see. Maybe take a date. Hey, girl, you want to go see this movie about God and stuff?
Eric, you are going to attract the wrong kind of girl, or maybe exactly the right kind of girl. Who knows?
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So that's that. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, Gabe?
I just want to reiterate how excited I am to see this movie.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. I knew the minute I watched that trailer, I was like, Gabe has got to see this. Gabe's gonna absolutely love this. It's
right.
Right up his alley.
I pretty much all through college and even up till now, I have really loved consuming various types of Christian media. I was all about William Lane Craig's books and bullshit from Lee Strobel, like the case for this nonsense, the case for this other piece of nonsense as well.
The case for this nonsense.
When I lived in Ohio and I would commute to work, the radio in my car was pretty much permanently tuned to a hyper-conservative Christian talk radio. Because I just love listening to this stuff. I can't get enough of it. And it's a little bit sad living in Boston now, because Boston crazy just cannot compare to Ohio crazy.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, yeah, all right, I think that'll about do it then for this episode. Gabe, why don't you send us off?
Oh, come on, man. There's no way I can do that. Well, I had a lot of fun talking about hockey and some other stuff that I guess I don't know much about, so blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, see, it's not that hard, right?
Yeah, so no more complaints from you, jackass.
Whoa. All right. Thanks for listening.
God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring